The number of cases of Ebola diagnosed in the United States has doubled in the last 2 weeks. The first was Thomas Eric Duncan, who brought the disease here from West Africa. Last week he died, but this week, 2 of the nurses who treated him were confirmed to have contracted the disease. So at this point, the doubling rate for cases diagnosed in the United States is about 14 days. Time is of the essence. The time period of the doubling rate is critical. Due to the exponential nature of the rate of contagion, by far, most of the damage done by Ebola will occur in the final month of the outbreak. But whether the doubling rate is every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, or every 4 weeks determines when U.S. population extinction will occur. If the doubling rate is 28 days, the U.S. population will be extinct by June of 2016. If the doubling rate is 21 days, the U.S. population will be extinct by January of 2016. And if the doubling rate is 14 days, as it appears to be, the U.S. population will be extinct by November of 2015. These projections assume that air traffic is effectively shut down from all affected countries in the world immediately. If any additional Ebola victim enters the United States from another country, the foregoing timeframes will be drastically reduced. Unfortunately, our medical infrastructure is unprepared to deal effectively with the crisis. This week, the National Nurses Union, National Nurses United, began a social media campaign and convened a conference call essentially stating that most U.S. hospitals lack A. adequate training and protocols for nurses, doctors, and other hospital staff who must deal with Ebola directly, B. necessary and sufficient protective gear, and C. appropriate infectious waste disposal methods and protocols. Thus, when patients are brought by the CDC to select hospitals like Emory or the Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha with advance warning and preparation, the disease is properly contained. But when ordinary citizens present at random hospitals or even urgent care clinics, the story is one of ineptitude, confusion, ignorance, and contagion. Governments at every level are unprepared or unwilling to deal effectively with the crisis. Federal, regional, and local governments have been conducting annual emergency preparedness drills for many years. However, these drills typically focus on the anticipated emergency du jour, such as natural disasters like earthquakes, floods, and hurricanes, conventional terrorist attacks, and bioweapons like anthrax. With the scene presently unfolding, each day it grows more painfully clear that the governments at every level have failed to adequately prepare for a risk like Ebola, a highly infectious, rapidly lethal disease with an exponential rate of contagion. The failure of government to plan for such a risk and to take sufficient measures to prevent catastrophic losses to the population it serves creates the risk of the governed population refusing to acknowledge or cooperate with a government which is obviously unable or unwilling to protect it. This is government's greatest nightmare, the widespread realization that government is ineffective precisely when it is most desperately needed, that government is thus effectively a useless parasite, and that there are more of us than there are of them. Accordingly, from government's perspective, 3 outcomes are possible. 1. Neither government nor the population at large effectively survives the catastrophic outbreak, in which case there is no longer anyone concerned with the issue of maintaining control of the governed anyway. 2. Government does survive, it prevents a catastrophic population reduction, and the governed region is left to deal with its traditional resource allocation and acquisition issues while the planetary population continues its relatively unhindered growth. 3. Government in some form survives the outbreak, and the massive population reduction resulting from the outbreak eliminates the issue of government being unable to control the governed. Therefore, it is clear that from government's perspective, the worst possible outcome results from actually effectively and competently controlling the outbreak.